He signed a bill that gave amnesty to undocumented immigrants. He grew the size of the federal government and the budget, added a whole new cabinet-level agency, and added tens of thousands of government workers to the federal payroll. He tripled the deficit. He bailed out and expanded Social Security with a big, fat tax increase. He raised corporate taxes by hundreds of billions of dollars. He raised taxes on gasoline. He, in fact, signed into law the largest tax increase in history. He supported federal handgun controls. He called for a world without nuclear weapons. He was Ronald Reagan. As a conservative saint, as the right-wing rock star, as king of the Republican prom in perpetuity, as a transformative figure for people who call themselves conservatives, the facts of Ronald Reagan's legislative record are awkward. Ronald Reagan's record has in it a lot of things that would get him kicked out of today's Republican Party, which is not to say that President Reagan was a secret liberal. He was not. What he was complex, but accomplished in his own way. With the passage of financial regulation in Washington today, President Obama took to the very unmomentous setting of Twitters, as he called it yesterday, to say this, quote, "Last night's House-Senate agreement on Wall Street reform represents the toughest financial reform since the Great Depression." Turns out that a lot of things that have happened in the less than 2 years of this administration are the biggest or first or most important in generations. On the occasion of the Wall Street reform announcement today, Tegan Goddard at CQ Politics wrote, "Not since FDR has a president done so much to transform this country." Even before today's historic Wall Street reform agreement, President Obama, of course, did what politicians have been trying to do for more than 60 years. He passed health reform, which for the first time establishes government responsibility for the health care of American citizens. Consider also the stimulus bill. It didn't just throw a lasso around our entire economy and yank it back from the brink. It also pumped about $100 billion into the crumbling embarrassment of our national infrastructure and transportation system. It was the largest investment in infrastructure since Ike. For solving our country's energy problem, something Obama has compared to man walking on the moon, it contained about $60 billion in spending and tax incentives for renewable and clean energy, also an historic investment. It also included an unheralded but giant investment in science and tech, amping up the budgets at NASA, the National Science Foundation, and an experimental energy research agency that was created under President George W. Bush, but never funded until now. President Obama also expanded state kids' health insurance to cover another 4 million kids. He signed the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, amending the 1964 Civil Rights Act for equal pay for equal work. He signed a nuclear arms deal with Russia that would reduce both countries' arsenals by a third. He created a new global non-proliferation initiative to keep nuclear materials out of the hands of terrorists. He set forth an international way forward on that radical left-wing proposition of Ronald Reagan, a world without nuclear weapons. Then there are the legislative and policy achievements that don't just build on previously set precedents, but set new ones. The Hate Crimes Prevention Act, also known as the Matthew Shepard Act. It had languished in Congress for years. The Food and Drug Administration permitted for the first time to regulate tobacco. Better late than never, he dismantled the scandal-plagued Minerals Management Service, broke it into 3 parts so that the folks who collect money from oil leases aren't the same ones regulating the industry. And now it will actually investigate the industry that it was busy stooping and doing drugs with during the last administration. Obama fired 2 wartime commanding generals in little over a year. He overhauled the astonishing stupidity of the student loan system, in which banks were being subsidized to give loans that were guaranteed by the government anyway, a license to print money. That was ended and the savings put toward actual aid to students. He canceled a weapons program that was bloated, unnecessary, and totally irrelevant to either of our current wars, the F-22. Why even mention the cancellation of a single weapon system? Because that never happens. Weapon systems never get canceled. The F-22 did, which is itself a miracle. In each of these achievements, and in the list of things he has yet to do, don't ask, don't tell, closing Guantanamo. In each of these things, there is room for liberal disappointment. I sing a bittersweet lullaby to the lost public option when I go to sleep at night. But presidential legacies are complex. Not even the Reagan administration's legacy is pure as the conservative-driven snow. But Tegan Goddard at CQ Politics was right today about nothing this big happening since FDR. The list of legislative accomplishments of this president in half a term, even before energy reform, which he's probably going to get to, is, to quote the vice president, a big freaking deal. Love this administration or hate it, this president is getting a lot done. The last time any president did this much in office, booze was illegal. If you believe in policy, if you believe in government that addresses problems, cheers to that. Good night.